So very good afternoon. Good afternoon. Attendance, please. Aditya Chopra, Abhay Jain, Dipti Rakesh, Gaurav
Yes,
Sharma,
sir.
Jayan Trivedi, Khushi
Yes, sir.
Wadhwa, Ishak
Sir,
Goyal, Sagar Shirvi, Shubhang, Surbhi
Yes,
Singhal,
sir.
and Tanish Agarwal. Fine. So we are starting with our class with this presentation. So yesterday we discussed about the introduction of the Sale of Goods Act, and I gave you two assignments also along with. And one was regarding the various terminologies which you have to write. I hope you have done it. And second was the Sale of Goods Act. The sale and agreement to sale. The difference between these two we have gone with. Okay. So today we will be continuing with the conditions and the warranties and other things which we will be doing. Okay. So let us do that. Let us proceed further with it. Okay. Fine. So conditions and warranties. So yesterday I asked you about some conditions and warranties also, and we have proceeded further with it. So today we will be proceeding with the what is the difference between condition and warranty, what are the things which actually endorse and enforce the conditions and warranties, and these type of things we will be taken care of, and this type of things will be done as such. Okay, so as we have yesterday also we have studied that condition is an stipulation. Both condition and warranties both are the stipulation, but condition is an stipulation which is essential to the main purpose of the contract, the breach of which gives rise to a right to treat the contract as repudiated or cancelled. So whenever there is a breach of condition, the contract will be treated as cancelled one. At the same time, when warranty is a stipulation collateral to the main purpose of the contract, the breach of the warranty will you can claim the damages, but you cannot repudiate the contract. Okay, and you have to you have to accept the goods. You cannot reject the goods. So whether the stipulation in the contract is of sale is condition or a warranty depends on the case to case basis and on the basis of how the contract has been constructed. So a stipulation may be condition though called a warranty in a contract. So this can also be there that sometimes it is a condition, but it can be called as a warranty in the contract itself. Okay. So example is, for example, Ram consults Sham, a motor car dealer, for a car suitable for the touring purpose. So he is asking for a car suitable for the touring purpose to promote this sale of his product. So two purposes are there. He wants a car for a touring purpose. Secondly, he also wants to promote the sale of his product. So Sham suggested Maruti, and Ram accordingly buys it from Sham. So the car turns out to be unfit for the touring purpose because he might have got that this Alto car or Maruti 800. So that is not suitable for long tour purpose. So here he can repudiate the contract. Here the term car should be suitable for the touring purpose, and it is a condition of the contract as such. Okay. So if so vital, that is non-fulfillment defeats the very purpose for which the Ram purchased the car, Ram is therefore entitled to reject the contract, and he can just reject the car and ask for the refund of the prices. So let us assume when Ram buys a new Maruti car from the showroom, and the car is guaranteed against the manufacturing defect under the normal usage for a period of 1 year from the date of the original purchase. And in the event, what happened? He actually found if during that period, if any part is found defective, it will be either repaired or it will be replaced by the car dealer. So after 6 months, Ram may find that the horn of the car is not working. So here in this case, he cannot terminate the contract. Manufacturer can either get it repaired or replace it with the new horn. So Ram gets a right to claim the damages if he has suffered just because of this, but otherwise he cannot repudiate the contract, or he cannot just say that okay, I will return everything. Okay, so it is like that. Fine. So next is the difference between condition and the warranty. So there are one thing that is the meaning. It is meaning in meaning you can say it is a essential to the main purpose of the contract. Whereas in warranty, it is only collateral to the main purpose of the contract. So what is the right? The aggrieved party can repudiate the contract in case of condition and also file a suit for the damages. So in warranty, only the damages can be claimed. Repudiation of contract is not possible. Okay. So conversion of stipulation, a breach of condition may be treated as a breach of warranty. Totally depends either on the operation of law or on the basis of the buyer accepting it, or he can say at the will of the buyer. But the breach of warranty can never be treated as the breach of condition as such. Okay, so these are the things which are to be noted. Okay. Further, Chirayu, are you there? Chirayu. Fine, just write down one more assignment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this assignment you have to post it on the group. Okay. So this is regarding distinction. Distinguish between
Condition and warranty.
yes.
Okay, sir.
So this is to be done. Fine. So let us proceed further now. Yeah. So there are, as I've already told you, there are certain conditions which can be treated as a warranty. So where a contract of sale is subject to any condition which is to be fulfilled by the seller, the buyer may waive that condition or elect to treat the breach of condition as a breach of warranty, and he himself only will be able to satisfy himself only with the damages, and he doesn't want to repudiate the contract as such. So this can happen. So where the contract of sale is not severable. Severable means it cannot be divided into parts. So in that case, the buyer has accepted the goods or a part thereof, or the breach of any condition be fulfilled by the seller can only be treated as a breach of warranty and not as a ground of rejecting the goods, because he has actually accepted the goods, and treating the contract as repudiated until there is a term of the contract as express or implied to that effect. Okay, so nothing in this section shall affect the case of any condition or a warranty fulfillment which is excused by the law by the reason of the impossibility or otherwise. So conditions can be treated as a warranty in two cases. One is if it is accepted by the buyer or by the operation of law. Okay, so we will be discussing this in detail. So section 13 specifies the case where a breach of condition be treated as a breach of warranty. Okay, so as a result of which the buyer loses his right, okay, to resign the contract, and the claim for the damages, he can only claim for the damages. So in the following cases, the contract is not avoided even on the ground of breach of condition. Okay, so number one is where the buyer altogether waives the performance of the condition. A party may, for his own benefit, waive the stipulation. For example, a person has to receive some, suppose 100 bales of cotton. So he has agreed to sell these 100 bales of cotton at a price of, suppose for example, 100 rupees per bale. Okay, previously this was the contract. Now what happens? The market has gone down. The market has gone down and the things are sellable only at the rate of 90 rupees per bale. Now it will be good if the seller or the supplier supplies him less amount, because he will be able to save the loss of profit which otherwise he would have suffered. Okay, so in that condition itself, so buyer, it is in the benefit of the buyer, so he can waive the stipulation, or he can consider this condition as a warranty, and further he may think of whether to file a suit for the damages or what not. In the same way, otherwise, had the rates been 110 or 120, in that case he would have asked for a full performance also, or the damages which he can claim. So and so it totally depends on the situation. So here, because it is in the benefit of the buyer, so he is waiving the condition, or he is treating the condition as a warranty. Next is where the buyer elects to treat the breach of condition as one of the warranty. That is to say, he may claim only damages instead of repudiating the contract. For example, A agrees to supply B 10 bags of first quality sugar. Okay, so 625 per bag, but but he supplies only second quality sugar and at the price of 600 per bag. Here the breach of condition, here there is a breach of condition, and the buyer can reject the goods. But if the buyer so elects to just accept the goods, he may treat this as a breach of warranty, accept the second quality sugar, and can claim the damages at rupees 25 rupees per bag also. Okay, so here the condition will be treated as a warranty. Third is where the contract is non-severable, as I have just now told you about the car. Okay, and the buyer has accepted either the whole goods or any part thereof. The acceptance means the acceptance as given under section 72 of the Indian Contract Act, as if it is properly given. So when the fulfillment of any condition or warranty is excused by law or by reason of impossibility or otherwise, then also the condition may be treated as a warranty. So waiver of condition. So when the buyer decides to waive off the condition, it can be treated as a warranty. So waiver of condition can happen in four ways. That waives the buyer waives the performance of the contract totally, or elect to treat condition as a warranty. So these two things happen voluntary on the basis of the buyer. Compulsory waiver will happen when there is a non-severability of contract. It cannot be separated, or the fulfillment of condition which is excused by law. So these four things can be treated as, these two things are by the you can say voluntary waiver, and these two things are the compulsory waiver. Okay, next is your conditions and warranties may either be express or implied. So they are expressed when the terms of contract expressly provide them, and they are implied not being provided for. So express conditions are those which are agreed upon between the parties at the time of the contract and expressly provided in the contract. And the implied conditions, on the other hand, are those which are presumed by the law to be present in the contract. It should be noted that the implied condition may be negated or waived by an express condition. So if there is any implied condition, and if you put some express condition against that implied condition, that implied condition will be treated to be waived off. Next is, now what are implied conditions? So implied conditions are following. So condition as to title of sale, condition as to description, sale by sample, you can say sale by sample as well as description, condition as to quality or fitness, merchantability, and wholesomeness. So these are the things. So these are 7 implied conditions. But first is title, description, sample, and description and sample both. So this is description, sample, and description, sample both. And the first most is the title, which is the most important one. So 4 these, and rest are related to the goods as such, quality, wholesomeness, and merchantability. So you can remember these in this way. So that first is the condition as to title. So in every contract of sale, and unless there is an agreement to the contrary, the first implied condition is the sale of the seller is that in case of sale, he has right to further sell the goods, or he himself, the seller, is having right to sell the goods, because sometimes there is a problem of the title. So title of the goods must be clear in this way. So in case of an agreement to sell, he will have right to sell the goods at some future date, okay, to pass the property in some future date. So in simple words, the condition implied is that the seller has right to sell the goods at the time when the property is to pass. If the seller's title turns out to be defective, the buyer must return the goods to the true owner and recover the price from the seller. Now, for example, A purchased a tractor from B who had no title to it. So your tractor was chori ka tractor tha. After 2 months, the true owner spotted the tractor and demanded it from A. Held, A was bound to hand over the tractor to its true owner, and A could sue B, the seller, without title for the recovery of the amount of purchase which he has paid. Next is condition as to title. Further is, if second case is, if A sells to B tins of condensed milk labeled CDF brand or any brand, and this is proved to be an infringement of N's company's trademark, it will be breach of the implied condition that A had right to sell. So B in such a case will be entitled to reject the goods or take off the labels and claim the damages for the reduced value. This is actually the case of some authorized dealer. So only authorized dealers are authorized to sell certain brands because they fulfill certain conditions of the company. So if someone else tries to sell or resell that product, which is a branded product of some company, and he is not authorized to deal with it, then he is having no right on those goods to further sell it off. So if the seller has no title and the buyer has to make over the goods to the true owner, he will be entitled to the refund of the prices. Okay. So this is, next is your description by sale by description. So where there is a contract of sale of goods by description, there is an implied condition that the goods shall correspond with the description. So this rule is based on the principle that if you contract to sell peas, you cannot compel the buyer to take beans. Okay, so this is something which is very, very important. The buyer is not bound to accept and pay for the goods which are not in accordance with the description of the goods. So I want to purchase some peas, so I may not be compelled to just accept beans as such. Okay, because I want peas. So when I want peas, then peas should be supplied to me. And if the beans are supplied, so I can repudiate the contract and get my money back and also claim for the damages if it is so. So thus it has to be determined whether the buyer has undertaken to purchase the goods by their description, whether the description was essential for identifying the goods where the buyer had agreed to purchase. So if that is required and the goods tendered do not correspond with the description, so it would be the breach of condition and entitling the buyer to reject the goods. In that case, the buyer can reject the goods because it is not matching the description. Now this description thing happens when the things are, very much famous or something like that, which actually everyone can recognize. So it is a condition which goes to the root of the contract, and breach of it entitles the buyer to reject the goods whether the buyer is able to inspect them or not. For example, A at Kolkata sells to B 12 bags of waste silk on the way from Murshidabad to Kolkata. So there is an implied condition that the silk shall be such is which is known in the market as a waste silk. If not, then B is entitled to reject the goods. For example, in another example, you can say A can have, suppose this is one, a ship was contracted to be a copper fastened vessel, but actually it was only a partly copper fastened, held the goods did not correspond to the description, hence could be returned. If the buyer took the goods, he could claim the damages for the breach. The act, however, does not define description. A sale has been deemed to be by the description where the class or the kind to which the good belongs has been specified. For example, Egyptian cotton, Java sugar, Sheffield crockery. Okay, where the goods have been described by certain characteristics essential to their identification, like jute bales, specified shipments, steel of specific dimensions. In that case, for example, basmati rice, Kota Doria, okay, you can say Jaipur rugs, something like that. So in that way, the thing should be the same thing which is asked for. For example, I asked that I need a basmati rice of this and this quality, this and this description, and I told the seller to sell it to me. So seller has sent it to me, but he has given some other description. So I am having all the rights to repudiate the contract and not to accept the goods at all. This I think sometimes happens when Amazon also sends you some goods which is not as per your description, or which the description which is shown on the site does not matches with the goods. So you can sell it, you can send it back. It may be noted that the description of these cases assumes that form of a statement or representation as regard to identity of a particular goods by reference of the place or the origin of mode of packing. Okay, so whether or not such a statement or representation is essential to identify the goods is a question of the fact, depending in each case on the construction of the contract. So it totally depends on the facts of the cases or the circumstances which actually determine whether the sale is by the description or not. Next is sale by sample. So in the contract of sale by sample, it is implied condition that the bulk shall correspond with the sample, and the buyer have a reasonable opportunity of comparing the bulk with the sample. So these two conditions must be fulfilled. For example, these type of sale, that is a sale by sample, happens when you have to purchase a huge quantity or the bulk quantity, and you just take some. For example, I want to just take 100 kgs of wheat. So 100 kgs of wheat, what I will do, I will just take a heap of, from the heap of the wheat, I will just take one handful of the wheat and will inspect it. Okay, so I am having all the rights to inspect the good and match it with the heap. Okay, so and then afterwards I can purchase. So in that case, sample of, for example, two parcels of wheat are there, and the seller allowed the buyer to inspect only the smaller parcel because he doesn't want that bigger parcel to open up and all that, but not the larger parcel. In this case, it was held that the buyer was entitled to refuse to take any latent of the parcels of the wheat. Okay, so there can be some latent defects in that which cannot be seen with the eye. So for that defect, actually, you can hold the seller responsible because he knows what is the defect in the goods. So the goods shall be free from any defect, rendering them unmerchantable, which would not be apparent on the reasonable examination of the sample. This condition is applicable only with regard to defects which could not be recovered by any ordinary examination of the goods. But if the defects are latent, then the buyer can avoid the contract. Latent and patent, though two type of defects are there. Latent defects are those which cannot be examined with the naked eye, but patent defects are those which are on the face of the article. So if the patent defects are there, still you can see it with your own eye, and you want to purchase that good, then it is totally upon your own will to purchase the goods. In that case, no condition will be applicable. But the latent defect is there, and that the seller knows about that particular defect, but buyer doesn't know. So it's the duty of seller to just tell the buyer about that, or otherwise he can just tell that whatever it is so. If you want to purchase it, otherwise not. Then it is totally upon the buyer to purchase or not. Okay. The example is there are a lot of examples. So special sole, the company is sold certain shoes made of a special sole by a sample. Okay, so they have given the sample for the French army. The shoes were found containing paper, not discoverable by the ordinary inspection. Hence, the buyer was entitled to refund the price plus damages. Next is sample as well as by description. Okay, so where the goods are sold by sample as well as by description, the implied condition is that the bulk of the goods supplied shall correspond with both sample and description. It is not sample or description, and you cannot say that the person is having all the rights to check the goods and all that. So it must resemble with both the description also and sample also. In case the goods correspond with sample but not tally with the description, or vice versa, or both, the buyer can repudiate the contract. So A agrees with B to sell certain oil described as a refined sunflower oil. So the warranted oil or the tendered oil which was given actually was actually contaminated. It was also having a mixture of hemp oil. So in that case, what happens? So that person B, he is having all the rights to reject the goods. Yes, Chirai, you have any question? Any question, Chirayu, or anyone else?
No, sir.
Fine. Hope you are able to understand this. There are various types of things. So just study it, match it, and then only you will be able to, because this is something which is for marketing people. This is very, very important to understand that how the Sale of Goods Act actually, works out. Okay. Fine. Okay, so condition as to quality or fitness. So ordinarily there is no implied condition as to quality or fitness of goods sold any for any particular purpose, because that caveat emptor, buyer beware, is there. The condition as to reasonable fitness of the goods for a particular purpose may be implied if the buyer had made known to the seller the purpose for it. Suppose, for example, a buyer has went to the seller that I want goods of this description, and this is my use, and actually because seller is selling the goods for a very long time. Okay, so he wants to rely on the skill of the seller, and he has actually specified his purpose and has told the seller that I want the goods for this purpose, so you please supply me the goods whatever you think fit and best. And now this is an implied condition that the seller must provide him the goods with all the good quality and fitness which actually he is asking for. Okay, so but so suppose, for example, this is a very good case. So A bought a set of false teeth from B, a dentist, but the set was not fit for A's mouth. Now who is responsible for it? Because he is not fitting in A's mouth, so A is not responsible. It is the dentist who is responsible, who has given him such a pair of jaws. Okay, so A rejected the teeth and claimed the refund of the price. It was held that A was entitled to do so as only for the purpose which this was the only for the purpose which he wanted the set of teeth was not fulfilled, because the dentist, nobody except dentist can tell you that what your teeth will do and how it will work out. So it totally depends on, rely on the basis of dentist only. Next is A went to B's shop and asked for merit swing. Now this is something very opposite. So if somebody asks for a branded thing at that time, for the branded thing, you cannot just apply the condition as to quality and fitness. So A went to B shop and asked for the merit swing machine. So B gave A the same and A paid the price. So A relied on the trade name. He actually relied on the trademark. So he knows his and he has not actually relied on the skill and judgment of the seller, because he wanted this merit machine. So it is implied that he might be knowing how the merit machine works. So in this case, there is no implied condition as to fitness of the machine for the buyer's particular purpose. So as a general rule, it is a duty of the buyer to examine the goods thoroughly before he buys them, in order to satisfy himself that the goods will be suitable for his purpose for which he is buying them. So this is known as rule of caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. So it is a duty of the buyer to inspect it. It is his duty. It is because a person who is taking the goods, he should be responsible for the price he is paying. Then afterwards, going in litigation will, unnecessarily drag the things further. Next is merchantability. So merchantability is actually the packing or the ability of a goods to be sellable in the market. That is called merchantability. If there is merchantability is not there, then then it will be said to be a breach of implied condition. Okay, so where the goods are bought by description from the seller who deals in the goods of that description, whether he is a manufacturer or producer or not, there is an implied condition that goods shall be merchantable of a merchantable. It should not be open. For example, we receive sometimes some defective goods from Amazon also. Okay, because of some bad packing or so. So at that time we are, these goods are said to be unmerchantable. I received the sanitizer in an open way. So that is not a properly merchantable. So I just returned that sanitizer to Amazon instantly, and they replace the sanitizer with another sanitizer. So if the person orders a motor horns are required. The manufacturer of the horns and horns are supplied are scratched or damaged or owing to bad packing. So this is, he can reject the goods on the basis of merchantability. Okay. Next is wholesomeness. Whereas merchantability is regarding the packing of the goods and making it marketable, wholesomeness is actually related to eatables. Those things are which are ready to eat or which can be consumed. Okay, so when we are talking of wholesomeness, it comprises of both merchantability as well as the wholesomeness, that is the quality of the goods appropriate for consumption. For example, A supplied F with the milk. The milk contained the typhoid germs. Okay, so F wife consumed the milk and was infected and died. Held there was a breach of condition as to fitness, or you can say wholesomeness, and he was liable to pay the damages. Okay, so next is your implied. So any question regarding your implied conditions? So we have discussed all the 7 types of implied conditions. So first type of implied condition is breach as to title of the goods. Second is sale by description. Third is sale by sample. Fourth is sale by sample and description. Fifth is your merchantability, isn't it? And then wholesomeness. And one more thing was there, quality and fitness. Fine. So these are the 7 things which are there in the breach of conditions. So next is your breach of warranty. Now warranty is actually sometimes it is a stipulation which is a collateral to the contract. Okay. So warranty is a law implies to the contract of, it is a warranty which the law implies to the contract of sale. Okay. In other words, it is a stipulation which has not been included in the contract of sale in express words, but the law presumes that the parties have incorporated it into their contract. It will be interesting to know that implied warranties are read into every contract of sale unless they are expressly excluded by the express agreement of the parties. Okay, so these may be excluded by the course of dealing between the parties or the usage of trade. It can also be excluded. Okay, so implied warranties are 4 types of implied warranties are there. Warranty as to undisturbed possession, secondary warranty as to non-existence of encumbrances, third is disclosure of dangerous nature of goods, and warranty as to quality or fitness by usage or trade. Okay, so this is regarding the implied warranties. So the examination of section 14 to 16 actually concluded that the warranty as to undisturbed possession, it means that an implied warranty that the buyer shall have can enjoy a quiet possession of the goods which he has been sold off. That is, say,
if the buyer having non-possession of the goods, it is later on disturbed with his possession, he is entitled to sue the seller for the breach. So, for example, a person has buy the goods for having its possession, not for just keeping it with someone else. Okay, so as soon as a person has buy the goods, the things must come in his possession. For example, sometimes there is delay by Amazon in supplying the goods to you. In that case, a suit can be filed against the company for the damages. Why? Because there has to be undisturbed possession, and possession you must receive the possession within the time stipulated, within the guaranteed time. If the guaranteed time is not fulfilled, then you can file a suit against the other person for the damages. Okay, so that is called undisturbed possession. Next is undisturbed title. So it is existing of encumbrances. So this actually non-existence of encumbrances is warranty as to undisturbed title. So for example, A pledges his car with C for a loan of 15,000 and promises him to give its possession in the next day. Now what happened? On one hand, he has pledged the car and possession to be given on the next day. Now what happens? Without informing C, A then sell it immediately to B, who purchased it on a good faith without knowing the fact that he actually owns rupees 15,000 from C. So what happens when B is having the position? Then C wants to him that see, this is he is having, we have to clear the loan amount, otherwise you pay me, or he has to pay this. So there is something undisturbance. There is a disturbance in the title of the goods here. So though the title is clear that the car belongs to A because he has pledged the car with C, but at the same time there are some dues to C because of which the car has been pledged. So C is not at all a true owner of the car. True owner of the car is A only. But when he has taken loan from C, it is actually creating a disturbance in the encumbrances, or you can say it is a disturbance in the title of the goods. So such disturbance should also not be there. So here the title is clear that A is owner. So condition as to title of goods is okay, but warranty as to non-existence of encumbrances is not there. So damages can be claimed. Next is warranty as to quality of the fitness by usage of trade. So there is an implied warranty of the quality of the fitness for a particular purpose may be annexed to or attached to the usage. For example, means it is just like that for the usage of the trade, the quality which is needed has to be like that. For example, there is one this rice which is called Sela Chawal. So Sela Chawal is used for a particular purpose. So it cannot be used for any other purpose. Something like Usna Chawal is also there in Odisha. So that is also to be consumed by the people living over there. So it cannot. It is a very thick. Usna Chawal is quite so thick. It is actually sold in Odisha. So that is something which is as per the trade or as per the usage of the trade, the quality and fitness is okay. But if it is not okay as per the trade, if you will supply a basmati chawal over there in where usna is to be served, it will not serve the purpose. Though basmati may be of very high quality, hardly matters. Okay. Next is actually this is a point which actually needs attention. So here there is no point at all. And this is the fourth one. Yeah, sorry for this interruption in between. Yeah. Okay, so next is your disclosure of the dangerous nature of the goods. If the goods are dangerous in nature, so it is a duty of the seller to tell about it, what are the dangers to use a particular good. Okay, so that is what, and if it is not told, then the damages can be claimed if any hazard happens. Okay, so next is your doctrine of caveat emptor, or let the buyer beware. So what do you mean by caveat emptor? I have already told you the caveat emptor means the let the buyer beware. So it is a duty of the buyer to inspect the goods whenever he is purchasing the goods. He must not rely on anyone else
accept himself for purchasing the goods. So seller in no way is responsible for bad selection of the goods by the buyer. The seller is not bound to disclose any defects in the goods which he is selling. Okay. So it's a duty of the buyer to satisfy himself before buying the goods that the goods will serve the purpose for which they are being bought. If the goods turn out to be defective or do not serve his purpose, if he depends on his own skill or judgment, the buyer cannot be held responsible. Even if sometimes he asks that, okay, this goods fit for me, the buyer can say, see, the goods are in front of you. If it fits you, please take it off. Otherwise, leave it over here. Okay, so this is something like that. It happens when there is a bulk sale going on. Okay, so you are actually supposed to just find the defect in the sale when the huge sale is there. So there may be the goods which are having some latent defects. So latent defects cannot be judged with the open eye, and the goods are sold in the bulk. So that you whatever you want, you just purchase it. लिखा होगा ना सब माल 100 रुपए. So 100 रुपए में सभी माल मिलेगा. So what the thing is, you have to identify whether the goods is useful for you or not, or otherwise afterwards do not blame the seller. So that is called doctrine of caveat emptor. So but the doctrine of caveat emptor happens only when there are certain conditions which are fulfilled. Number one, if the buyer had made known to the seller the purpose of his purchase, then this caveat emptor will not be there. Okay. Next is the buyer relied on the seller's skill. So buyer is totally relying on the seller's skill, and buyer has known has made the seller known to it, and the seller's business to supply the goods of that description. It is regular duty of the seller he is doing. For example, A sold pigs to B. Now pigs are being infected because of the typhoid or other, and it actually spread in the other pigs also of the buyer. So it was held that the seller was not bound to disclose the pigs were unhealthy because of the rule of caveat emptor. So it is the buyer's duty to get, because he is also dealing in the same kind of things. Seller and buyer both are in the same kind of business, because he is having other pigs also. So it's his duty to inspect the pigs. For example, A purchases a horse from B. A needed the horse for riding, but he did not mention this to B that he needs the horse for riding. So horse is a horse. Okay, so it may be used for riding or pulling the cart, or horse may be of just hanging, or you can say just tying him outside the house. That is okay. So horse is a horse, but unless the purpose is said, there is nobody. So caveat emptor rule applies here, and A can neither reject the goods nor he can claim. So caveat emptor is something in which the buyer has to, the totally responsibility of the buyer. Okay, so there are certain exceptions. Exceptions are that the fitness as to quality of use, where the buyer makes known to the seller the particular purpose that I have already told you. If he is and has totally relied on the skill and the judgment of the description which he has given to the seller. For example, an order was placed for some trucks to be used for a heavy traffic in hilly country. So trucks supplied by the seller was unfit for the purpose and broke down in between. So there is a breach of condition, because totally depending on the seller, the things was purchased. Next is, this is a very famous case called Priest versus Last. P, a draper, purchased a hot water bottle from the retail chemist. So P asked the chemist if it would stand boiling water. So chemist told him that the bottle was meant to hold hot water, not the boiling water. So the bottle burst when the water was poured into it and injured his wife. It was held that the chemist shall be held responsible for the damages to P, as he knew that the bottle was purchased for the purpose of being used as a hot water bottle. So he should actually tell the thing. So this is something which is, you can say, is a case. So where the article has been used only for the purpose, for a particular purpose, the buyer need not tell the seller the purpose for which it is required. But where the article has been used for number of purposes, the buyer should tell the seller the purpose for which he requires the goods, if he wants to make the seller responsible. So another case is the Bombay Burma Trading Corporation Limited versus Aga Muhammad. So a timber was purchased for the express purpose of using it as a railway sleepers, and when it was found to be unfit for the purpose, the court held the contract would be averted. So actually, this person, you might have seen that these days timber is not used; it is complete concrete blocks are used.
Otherwise, in the old time, just putting the some under the railway track, they used to use the teak wood timber. So that was used to just put behind. So the railway the railway used to buy these sleepers from some people, but the sleeper which were given, they all broken down when the on the very first visit of the railway. So it was not fit. Okay, next is goods purchased under the patent or the brand name. If you have taken any patent or any brand name, so that is an exception to the caveat emptor. So in that case, the goods are purchased under the patent name or brand name. There is no implied condition that the goods shall be fit for any particular purpose, because you know the patent, the brand name, you know the purpose for which you are taking it. So caveat emptor will not be there. Further, if it is goods sold by description, when the goods are sold by description, there is an implied condition that the goods shall correspond with the descriptions. So if it is not so, then seller is responsible. So here also caveat emptor will not be there. So all the things that you will see when there is a condition to implied condition. So for implied conditions, the caveat emptor will not be applicable as such, except for that if the buyer has got a proper chance to inspect the goods. So goods are of merchantable quantity. So the goods has to be merchantable. It has to be properly packed. So in that case, if the goods are not properly packed, so it is a duty of the seller to get the goods packed. In that case also, the caveat emptor applies. But if the buyer has examined the goods, that packing is not there, the other thing, and still he is purchasing the goods with all the defects, then the caveat emptor will be applicable, otherwise not. Sale by sample, we have discussed sale by sample and the description and trade usage. So these all are the things when the things are used in the trade as such. So there is a trade name of certain things. So it is being used with that particular trade name itself. And if it is sold in the market and something wrong is supplied except that particular name for which it is being used, then this doctrine of caveat emptor will not be applicable. Okay, so this is further one. I think this one more defect is there. Yeah, seller actively conceals. So this is something. So seller is actively concealing the defect or is guilty of fraud. In that case, also this is an exception to the caveat where the seller sells the goods by making some misrepresentation or fraud, and the buyer relies on it. And when the seller actively conceals some defect in the goods, so that the same could not be discovered by the buyer on a reasonable examination, then the rule of caveat emptor will not apply, because he has given him all the chance to see the goods. Okay, and now it's a duty of the buyer to inspect the goods and accordingly take the goods as such. So in such a case, buyer has a right to avoid the contract and claim damages. Okay, so in that case, this thing can happen. Otherwise, because he is guilty of the fraud, but if proper examination is to be given, and there are certain latent defects which are disclosed in latent defects which are disclosed by the seller, but the patent defects are not disclosed and are left to the buyer to just see it, then in that case the doctrine of caveat emptor will not be applicable, and it will be an exception in that case. So this is all about your doctrine of caveat emptor and conditions and warranties. So now here comes your assignment part also. So you have to write, discuss in detail the facts of the case, priest versus last. It is already given over here. So you can also Google it further, and because this is a very leading case, so you have to write the facts of the case, and on the basis of that, the doctrine of caveat emptor you have to establish. Further, what you have to do is then you have to write the exception to the doctrine of caveat emptor. Okay. Further, you have to write a detailed note with all the examples. So each example or case law you can take for all the implied conditions and warranties also, though it is given over here, but I want you to write, so that because this is one of the very important part of this particular law of contract, which I want you to write and learn, then only will be able to understand the things. Any question till now, or anything you want to ask? Anything, anyone?
No, sir.
Fine. So I think time is also up, or
Yeah, it is sharp 1. So let me take the attendance and then you may leave. Fine. So attendance please. Aditya Chopra, Akash Jain, Abhay Jain, Abhay Singh Shekhawat, Abhishek Singh Sisodia, Adhiraj, Akash Jindal, Arvind Vishnoi, Ashutosh Sharma, Ayush Verma, Deepak Thanwani, Deependra Gujar, Dheeraj Lamba, Dheeraj Sharma, Dipti Rakesh Patavari, Devyanshi Choksi, Fazal Ahmed Khan, Gaganjit Singh, Gaurav Sharma, Harsh Temani, Jaipal Singh Tawar, Jayant
Present, sir.
Dwivedi, Kanishk
Present,
Bilochi,
sir.
Kashish
Present, sir.
Sharma, Kushi Wadhwa, Lakshya Sharma, Lucky Chaudhary, Manish Khileri, Mihir Agarwal, Naman Jain,
Present,
Naman
sir.
Singh, Neha Goplani, Farida
Present, sir.
Gupta, Parth Gautam, Pranav Sharma, Priyam Soni, Raghav Singhal, Rishabh Goyal, Rishi Kanungo, Ritik Yadav, Sagar Shirvi, Sahil Khandelwal,
Present.
Sanjay Gupta, Shriyansh Jain, Shubham, Srajal Purwar, Surbhi Singhal, Tanish Agarwal, Tarun Singh, Ujjwal Gupta,
Present, sir.
Himanshi Singh, Vishal Chaudhary, Yashashvi Purohit, and Yashpal Singh Malecha. So guys, thank you and have a nice day.
Present, sir.
So you have a lot of assignment to do, so please complete the assignment. Okay, well on time, and this time it will not be excused. So let me tell you, the assignments have to be submitted by the end of every week. So whatever assignment I give in the entire week, you have to submit the assignment within the end of the week. Okay, and this assignment is to be submitted on the email ID which we have created. Okay. So do not, many of you are just mailing me the assignment as if you are showing me that you are doing it. So I have all the access of that too. So please provide the assignment only at where it is designated. Okay, so we have a email for it. Please send the assignment over there only. Okay, and you have a copy of when you have submitted. Another thing is that when the time is there, for example, 6 o'clock is there for the Saturdays, you are having the Saturday evening 6 o'clock to submit your assignment, and after that the assignment will not be accepted. Okay, so every week you have to submit the assignment, and if there is a delay, 1 mark per assignment will be deducted. So entire week assignment will be called as 1 assignment now. Okay, so every week you have to do assignment, certain questions. So this will all will be counted as 1 assignment. So every assignment you will submit later than the designated date, there will be deduction of 1 mark. Even 1 second more you have taken, then also it is your duty to just finish it off well on time, or otherwise you can say it will you can say the mark reduction will be there. Okay, so please mind it, and do not just bother afterwards, sir एक ही marks तो था, 15 मिनट तो लेट था सर, मैं तो ये सब चीजें avoid all these things. Okay, do not do all these things, because create your own personality. Why you feel bad of just asking favors from someone? Stop asking all these things. Do your things well on time. Why to ask favor from anyone, even from me? Though I am always there to favor you off, I always do that. But beyond a limit, it actually I have to create that those who have who have submitted well on time, it will be injustice to them. Try to understand the thing. That's why. Okay, I hope you understand my problem also, and we'll do the things accordingly. Thank you guys. Yeah, but one more thing, if the assignment, because there are number of 70 students over here 28 over there, there are more than about 100 students are there in both the sections. Now it happens sometimes that you may have submitted on time and I'm not able to see it properly. So you can please mention it like Dipti did. So it is well appreciated that if the things you have submitted and some mistake maybe on our part or my part, as such, please just highlight it on the group, or you can put a message over here, so accordingly will be treated, right? Thank you guys and have a nice day to all of you. Bye bye. See you.
Thank you so much, sir. Bye bye, sir.
Bye.